What's up, everybody? We're here for round 3 of discussing event details for Shadow of Corruption. Today, we're going to be covering what it's like to be a volunteer at the event. We'll go over a couple of topics, going from logistics and a general timeline. Both of those are very similar to the players, with a few differences. We'll talk about what it's going to be like questing, talk about some guidelines, and then we will talk about the variations of NPCs or volunteers that there are available. That's going to eat up a bulk of this, so without further ado, I'm going to go over here and check chat just to make sure I can see questions, hopefully, before the very end of the stream. And also verify if there's sound. My wife, unfortunately, went upstairs, go work on something else, so she can no longer be my verification for this, but give it a couple of seconds. It hasn't failed before. Streaming software is pretty good, so. Okay, so first up, logistics, talking about this. We covered where you're going to park at the event last time. The cost for anybody who attends as a volunteer to this is free. So fantastic way to save yourself some money, as well as help other people out with a really cool experience. Again, it is pre-register only. You can't just show up at the gate unless we have some previous words. I'll go over when it comes to how you register for this. That'll all be made very public, very well known ahead of time, and most likely the first one is going to be the player registration is going to open up, I think, this weekend. But again, I'll make a big public post about it. Everybody will know. It's going to be a start time, just to make sure that it's fair for everybody to get in on it at the same time, since it's kind of capped as far as numbers. But yeah. Next up, let's talk about the general timeline for the event. So, like the players, you're going to be showing up Friday, October 1st, except instead of 8 p.m., you're going to show up at 6 p.m. You can show up even a little bit earlier than that. I'm probably going to be there from like 3 p.m. onwards, just whatever time. I'm taking the day off of work, and I'm going to get up there and start getting everything unloaded, settled, go through everything, experiment with the audio equipment and stuff there, because we're going to use it. But yeah, so feel free to show up anytime around then. Otherwise, 6 p.m. is what time I really want all of my NPCs to start showing up. Dinner will be provided for you, which is something else that's different between NPC volunteers and players. It's going to be a pizza dinner. If you have special dietary needs and you're a volunteer, hit me up. I will provide whatever you need for that as well. And then, so that gives us a 2-hour window from around 6 p.m. to when players start showing up at 8 p.m. Now, during this time, you can hang out in the basement. So yeah, let's talk about the castle layout a little bit. The main story, when you first come into the castle, is going to be where all of the players are going to be residing. There is a bunkhouse up there, as well as a couple of private rooms, and the bathrooms are up there, and the great hall where the feasts and food and stuff is going to be. And then there is a large basement that has an enormous room that is just going to be open. This is where all the NPC staging is going to happen, and they have a bunkhouse down there as well. So if you're an NPC, you'll be staying in the bunkhouse down in the basement. However, during any of the open times when you're not being an NPC, feel free to garb up and go upstairs and mingle with the players. Now, I would say you're obviously not going to be acting like a cultist at this time or anything like that. You're just supposed to be a denizen of Polaris. But yeah, feel free. And especially during the opening night, when there's supposed to be games and celebration and stuff like that, because we're all coming together for this festival. Yeah, it'll help to create that atmosphere. And then same thing, 11 p.m. hits and quiet hour start. That goes for NPCs as well. Now, granted, since you're in the basement, you can do more. The big room is going to be open 24/7 for all of the NPCs. So if you want to go out there and play board games or something like that, or just keep yourselves busy, talk, whatever, feel free. It's really quiet down there. It's a big old concrete structure. Sound won't carry too well from the bottom to the main floor. So don't worry about it. And then, yep, questing all day Saturday after, breakfast at 8 p.m. or whatever it was that I said. And then Sunday, 10 a.m. is when all of the players are supposed to be off site, just shortly after breakfast. After they all leave, we will be taking over and cleaning this place up because as part of the regulations for renting this place, we have to clean it as well. They provide all the cleaning supplies. They provide everything we'll need. They have a big old checklist of stuff that we'll go through. And with the number of volunteers I have, it'll take us maybe 2 hours to get this thing back to spick and span, and we'll be out of there around noon is my hope. Cool. Yeah. So let's talk about your arrival at the castle as well. So similar to the players, you're going to park in the parking lot, which is all the way on the west-hand side of the castle, or rather the event site. There'll be signs everywhere. So you'll all start parking there, and then I will take the van that I'm renting to haul a bunch of stuff up there and shuttle all of you to the castle as well. Or feel free to walk if you want to. It's like a quarter mile to get from the parking lot to the castle itself, but shuttle is there and available, and it'll help you carry all of your stuff. So we'll do that and, hopefully get everybody to the castle in a timely manner. And then very shortly after volunteers get there, we will be going on a castle tour as well, showing you all of the locations within the castle to get you familiar with it, let you know about where you can go on those stairs leading up to the main floor before you get seen. Got to keep all of our cultists in the basement. And then, sometime during Saturday, we will be going over an overview of the systems as well. You'll be getting a sheet, depending on whatever role you go for, covering a lot of these details too. So if you sign up for that, you'll be getting a plethora of information. You won't be left in the dark. All the details will be covered, and then we'll be recapping that at the castle itself. So let's talk about what it's going to be like questing from the NPC side. So during Saturday, all of the NPCs, if you're not garbed up, you don't have to be garbed up or anything like that. You can hang out in the basement the whole day and be the author of your own adventure, essentially. So yeah, all of the NPCs will be hanging out in the castle basement. If you are a general NPC, the way that it works is a guide will come down looking for... Actually, let's talk a little bit about some other stuff first. So yeah, some guidelines for being a volunteer is you're free to do whatever you want while you're in the castle basement. You can play video games, you can have a cell phone, you can be out of garb, you can be fighting because there's plenty of room in there for sealing. We actually have fought in the basement at this for one of the other events that I attended. Plenty of room. It's fun, fantastic. And then, depending on who you are, again, you'll be provided a script or a description of, expected conduct or something like that if needed. Next up, let's talk about some of these NPC variants. So, the biggest ones are, there is a Fighters Guild Instructor, a Mages Guild Magus, or Magus, depending on how you say it. I don't know what the correct pronunciation is. My event, I'm going to say Arch, because I like that better. There are guides who serve as effectively Reeves, and then there is generic NPCs, which is going to be a bulk of the people, and that is they formulate the enemy squads that the adventurers go out and do combat with, and then come back. Maybe you do really well and you murder all of the PCs, and they have a bad time, and you come back victorious instead. But yeah, so we will cover all of these in specifics. Get over here. Okay, so a little advertising. Why should you volunteers? Why should you volunteers? Yeah, why should you volunteer? Again, all volunteers have no gate fee. You get first dibs on keeping props. So all of the stuff that I'm making for this, I'm going to be making some weapons, some shields, some various props and stuff like that, outfits or whatever for some of the fancier enemies that are going to be involved. Or maybe I'll be hitting up some people for helping with that, because some people have been nice and come forward saying, hey, if you need something, let me know. And, I'll toss money at them and we can have even more cool stuff. All of that I'm going to give away to people at the end of the event, just so I don't have nearly as much stuff to haul back and then keep somewhere or like dispose of it or whatever. So all of my NPCs are going to get first dibs on keeping all of those kinds of props and stuff. There might be a few exceptions, like some fancy weapons. I still can't decide if I really want to have like relics or anything like that involved with this, which again, they wouldn't be kingdom relics, they would just be event relics. So it'd be a cool looking weapon and then it would just turn into a normal short sword after the fact or something like that. But if I make or contract somebody to make some cool stuff, those will probably stay with whoever it is that claims them. Otherwise, most of the other stuff, just like the generic weapons, the ones, a shield with the Cult of the New Moon symbol on it, that little circle with the vertical line, all of that stuff up for grabs for all my NPCs first, and then player characters if they want after the fact, and nobody has claimed that stuff. It's an excellent opportunity to become familiar with playing monsters as well. The way I have designed a lot of this stuff we'll get into a little bit later, but it makes heavy use of a lot of mechanics, and I have streamlined the process as much as possible to make it easy for you as a player, even if you've never done Monster, even if you're only familiar with your favorite class, which is Scout or something like that. You can absolutely slip into these roles without any training and go to town, have fun. It'll be pretty straightforward as to what you're going to be doing. Again, flexible participation. You get to decide, like, hey, yes, I want to volunteer for this quest, or like, oh, maybe I just got back from one, I need a break, I'm going to take an hour or something like that, go grab some food upstairs or have food brought down to you. Either way, you get to choose your level of involvement as well. By all means, I expect you, if you are coming to volunteer as just a generic NPC, that you participate, a decent amount. But if you need breaks, you need to take some time, or you need a breather for any reason, you're absolutely free to do that. And then, again, since you're all hanging out in the basement and there's no immersion in the basement, players aren't allowed to go down into the basement, there is no requirement for you to be always in character. Which, if you don't feel like garbing up all the time, or maybe you don't have the best garb, or you just really don't feel like getting into a character because you're not super into the roleplay thing, this is an excellent opportunity for you to still attend the event and see what it's all about. Okay, so I kind of covered everything that's in the overview section of this. Sorry, this is something I made a long time ago, and then I had the general list of stuff I wanted to cover, so it'll take me a little hunting around for some of this, but skipping this, going right on into the first volunteer type, and probably the only other crat position that will be for the event, and that is cooks, or feastocrats, as they're commonly called. And the reason they're the only other crat is because they will have free reign for doing the meals in whatever way they see fit. And I will provide them with a budget, or we'll talk about that or whatever. But yeah, if you're the person doing food, or group of people volunteering to do food, then yeah, that will essentially be on you. And I will be providing funds. I have 2 little rules, I think, that are necessary. Otherwise, the details and stuff like that will be up to you. I will say, going through up to that part of Minnesota, there is a Walmart that is maybe like 10 minutes away, right outside of town, or right in town, and the scout camp is right outside of town. I highly recommend not needing to pack a bunch of ice and stuff like that. We can just stop by there, and please, I'm available that day, obviously. We can stop by, or you can give me a shopping list of stuff. I will just pick it all up at that Walmart and then take it off to site, unless you have very specific requirements or very specific, suppliers or something like that. But that's just food for thought if you're being a feastocrat. We have the transportation and the ability to pick up food relatively closely to the site, so anything that needs done can get done up there. So yeah, cooks, what are your responsibilities? Friday night, After the dinner, which is just a pizza dinner, that I provide for all of us, you will be responsible for providing just a bunch of like party snacks and stuff like that. It can be super simple stuff, chips and salsa, a bunch of fruit, vegetable plates, whatever, cheese and crackers or something like that. Doesn't matter. Just Friday night is a light snack dinner since it's at 8 o'clock. And providing beverages for that. So like tea or soda or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like that's, again, that kind of stuff is up in the air for you. Water is everybody's best friend. So, and it's a fully fledged functioning building, so it has clean running water. But yeah, so drinks and snacks Friday night. Saturday, typical all 3 meals, including a big feast for dinner, and then Sunday breakfast for everybody, and that's it. The other little requirements that I have, here are the 2 little things. So your meal options must include either a gluten-free, or rather, it should include both a gluten-free and a vegan option, just because those are the 2 most common sensitivities or requirements, demands, whatever you want to call them, that players have, and I think they're easy enough to facilitate. Now, they can be something as simple as omission of ingredients or something like that. Like if we're all having chicken and rice, the stereotypical Amped Guard feast dinner, which can be fantastic. I've had some excellent chicken and rice dinners. It could be something as simple as, well, if you need vegan, the rice was prepared separately vegan or something like that. They should be square meals. Like they should be, healthy, something more than just bland rice. But what I'm saying is, if you cook them all separately in separate stuff, I'm not vegan. I don't know how that stuff works. I know that if it's something like cooked meat, it shouldn't cook the same, cook your food or whatever. As long as you can mix and match stuff to get those requirements, fantastic. 10 out of 10. And that's really it. So just that number of meals is the expectation, and the options for gluten-free or vegan. And again, if you volunteer for this, we will go through a process of you submitting what you think a budget is going to be based on an attendance level of around 100 players, etc. But first thing is just going to be reaching out to me and saying, hey, you want to do that? I know that I already have a couple people who have said that they're potentially interested in that, which is fantastic. I'm looking forward to working with you. Okay, so that covers cooks. Very wordy, very important. Next up is going to be people who just come as general NPCs will also have the opportunity. I'm going to need 2 registrars, which are, to say, gate shift people. Now, there's only 1 gate shift, and that is Friday night when everybody is supposed to be arriving. If people are coming in on Saturday or something like that, they can come to me. I'm the Marshal. I'm going to be hanging out basically right next to the front door the entire time. If they need. Otherwise, so 2 people are going to be registrars on Friday night. And again, that starts at about 8 o'clock. Now, the registrars will collect waivers. They will present players with their initial class cards. They will be in character. I'll provide you with the script to assist with the immersion while answering various typical questions for that kind of stuff. And then, after that, you go back to being a regular generic NPC. Next up after that, we will cover guides. So, guides are the reeves for a quest. They will wait for an assembled group of players to come to them with a quest contract. Indicative quest contract. Notice the symbols all along the bottom, which I covered in the player thing. They will consult the Marshal after they've been presented with this quest contract. The Marshal will decide if the squad that is going for this quest will be getting any additional free agent players. If you want to know what a free agent player is, go watch the other video covering what it's like to attend as a player character. And then they will tell the adventurers to sit tight in the hall while they prepare for the journey. During this time, the guide goes downstairs into the monster camp where everybody's just hanging out, waiting, chomping at the bit to get in their NPC stuff and go out. They get all of the details of the quest squared away, which I'll cover that a little bit more in detail after I go through this. I have a walkthrough, shall we say, of how this is going to work. And then they go back up to the players. They will come over here. Let me scene 1. There we go. Yeah. So there will be a board downstairs, kind of like the quest board, except it's going to be a map of all of the locations at this place that are available for use. All of the circles are combat areas that the guides can choose to use. They will get little things that they can hang on top of these. Again, this is going to be like a big 6 foot by 4 foot piece of plywood or something like that with this painted on it. And then they'll have little things that they can flag to hang on top of this saying like, hey, this questing area is occupied. So, they'll go out to number 1. They'll tell the NPCs in the basement, okay, you're going to be a questing area number 1. Or maybe, you don't pick the farthest one away first. Maybe you pick the closest one. So you're like, hey, NPCs, you all go to location 9. And then they put a little thing hanging on location 9 saying occupied. After the NPCs depart, the guide will go back upstairs and wrangle the players back in and slowly walk them to their location or whatever. During this, the players can maybe question the NPC about some of the details of the quest contract or something like that, or just small talk, something, whatever, it doesn't matter. But when you get to the quest zone, you are not part of the combat as a guide. You are now the Reeve for this, and you will know all of the special mechanics that are going on based on the quest descriptions that you go over with the NPCs, and it's your job to serve as a normal Reeve. So you're going to be facilitating things like, oh, yep, that gigantic thing over there, the huge inflatable ice ball or something like that, that is definitely an ice ball. Maybe you can hit it with a fireball and it melts, or some weird mechanic like that or something. If that kind of stuff happens, it's your job to inform the players if they don't understand. Otherwise, you're just a normal Reeve at that point. You see something that looks questionable from a call, just like, well, give them an opportunity to work it out, or maybe call them out or something like that. If they all wipe, you get to inform them that they all have to go back to the castle and they get to repost their thing. And you just do that, repeating all day until we've blown through quests, at like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And that's your job. That's what it's like to be a guide. Next up, we are going to be talking about another non-combat NPC, and that is the Healer's Guild Priest. Now, this is one that I didn't cover in my little listing before because it's very similar to the other two, the Fighters Guild and the Marshals, and the Mages Guild instructors. But the priest hangs out in their own little chapel in the castle, and players come to them for resurrection. So if a player dies out in during their quest and they don't have a healer in the party, or maybe they were the healer in their party and they have no other source of resurrections, they have to come back to the castle to resurrect. The priest is responsible for handling that kind of interaction. So to resurrect a player, the priest instructs the player to kneel in the center of a spell circle. And again, the spell circle will be just like a rug or something like that looks fancy. It looks like, an alchemy circle from Full Metal Alchemist or something. Very stereotypical, little candles all over the place. Make it look really cool. You just instruct them to stand there, and you cast a standard Amtgar rule play Resurrect. The priest is encouraged to converse with dead players a bit before bringing them back, asking them how they died, why they wish to come back before resurrecting them, etc. Stuff like that. Make some small talk, make it seem more like you're contacting the spirit realm in order to rebind their presence to the earth or something. Play it up. It's your Healer's Guild priest role. Go crazy. Get a fancy outfit or something like that. Whatever. Next up is talking about the Fighters Guild Instructor and the Mages Guild Magus. So both of these serve the same thing, just for completely different schools of classes. They are the people responsible for retraining players if they want to become a different class. So the Fighters Guild Instructor is responsible for converting people to martial classes. So, Barbarian, Scout, Warrior, Assassin, Archer, etc. All the non-magic classes. And the Mages Guild Magus is responsible for converting people to the magic classes: Druid, Wizard, uh, Bard. And same thing, when a player comes to them and they want to know, like they want to change classes, the players are going to know based on their tour that, like, hey, yes, this is where these two areas are. They'll come to you. They will say, oh, I want to be a wizard now. You're going to take them aside and you are going to instruct them. Literally be like, oh, well, this is how you cast a lightning bolt or something like that. Or maybe you question them, talking about the rules of certain things. Like, yes, how would you particularly incant this spell of stopped? Or whatever, hold person, there we go. Yeah, obviously I don't play magic classes very much. But yeah, hold person, Uh, and again, play it up. It's your role. Have fun with it. You get to be the persona, but this is going to be your charges for the entire day. Is going to be keeping these areas, and handling these kinds of interactions. Now, one special thing of note: the Magus and the Mages Guild will have the shop for all of the magical items. And they will be responsible for handling those interactions as well. Again, it's just like players come in with their gold or whatever. They're like, I want to buy a potion of bark skin, if that's the actual item. And, because you're mages, you're the ones that have all of this magical stuff. You supply them. The Fighters Guild will be responsible for maintaining a pit area for people who want to come and practice combat again in character, but they won't be actually killing each other. It'll just be sparring or whatever, like a tournament ring or something like that, from ye olden days. And you will be responsible for keeping that. Maybe they want to challenge you. Maybe they want to take a look at some of your weapons or something like that, because you have a bunch of weapons all over the place. Because why wouldn't you? You're the Fighters Guild Instructor. Play it up. Again, have fun with these roles, and I will work with you to help flesh out ideas that you have if these are the kinds of things that you're interested in. Okay, and then finally, let's talk about generic NPCs. So these are the bulk of the players again. You will be spending most of your time in the basement or out on quests as enemies for these people to throw themselves against. I'm just going to nix this whole thing and go through my little routine now. So, first thing, you're not required to bring garb, but that is because I'm providing you with a very easy garb solution that works for everything and hopefully for everybody. That is a simple system of tossing on a graduation robe, tossing on a hood, and tying a little thing of string around you, and that will help keep the looks of all of these cultists that all the players are going to be interacting with every day the same. So I'm going to demonstrate that. You'll notice I'm going to pick up two kinds of robes. There are some red ones for special people. There are some black ones for basically everybody else. Just depending, you can pick and choose between a lot of the colors and stuff like that, but the red ones are specifically reserved. So they're like some maroon and stuff like that, whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so I'll show you what that looks like really quick, live demonstration. there you go. World's easiest cultist garb. So yeah, this is what basically everybody is going to look like and get dressed up as whenever it comes to being an NPC. There will be racks of these hanging downstairs in the basement, waiting for you to come by, grab it off, and toss it on before you go off and fight your players. So yeah, let's get back to this workflow, if you will, of the guide coming downstairs with ye old quest contract. So, if the guides pay attention, there will be a little number in the bottom left-hand corner of this piece of paper that has a little number right there. So, a number 1. Now, what the guide is going to do is, and this is way fancier than it's actually going to be just a bunch of cardboard boxes. It just looks cooler for the stream. They are going to go around and find, a quest box with the number 1 on it. That corresponds to that quest contract that the players have. They're going to open it. They're going to find the in-depth quest description talking about the things that are going to happen during this quest for the players. So, the objective for this particular quest is keep the bottle from the players. A bottle, you say. Bottle must be kept on your person. You may not leave the quest area. There is 1 messenger. So this would be the guide's cue to look in the box like, oh, hey, look at that. There's the bottle that the NPC has to keep on them, and a little message inside. Let's take a look, see what this thing says. Not that they'll care, but oh, if I can get it out. Heh, nailed it. It says, cash me outside. How about that? So yeah, the NPC in question, again, on the little piece of paper, it says, oh, 1 messenger. So they solicit one of the random NPCs that are chillaxing in the basement. They give them this little bottle. If I can get the piece of paper back in, that was a mistake. Well, now it's definitely going to be in here for good. So they tell the NPC, you take this bottle, you keep it on your person, and you are trying to keep it away from the players. We're going to be going to location 5, and you can't go out of that location. Most of the locations, FYI, are little cleared out areas, either campsites or like an arrow range or something like that, since this is a Boy Scout camp, or maybe a little cabin area or something like that. They look at the thing, they tell the person, hey, you get 2 points of natural invulnerable armor, and you get access to all melee weapons. Now, anybody who has ever done anything with me and questing and stuff before knows I love to use natural invulnerable armor for my NPCs. And that's because it is super simple. Think of it as hit points. Any bad thing that could possibly happen to you just takes away 1 natural invulnerable point of armor, period. Doesn't matter. You get hit anywhere. You get hit on the hand, you get hit on the back, whatever. You get hit with a spell ball, somebody shouts and points at you. Anything at all negative that happens to you takes away 1 point of natural invulnerable armor. So in this case, you get 2 points to slough everything in the game, and you get access to all possible melee weapons to go out and do your best to thwart the players and stop them from getting the little bottle. So yeah, if the players succeed, the guide will know. They will, congratulate the players and shuttle the players back to the castle. As you sit there, if they were successful in getting the bottle from you, you're probably dead. So you sit there and you lay on the ground until after the players get out of sight, and then you come back to the castle and go back into the basement, which there is a back door entrance to the basement, by the way. So anybody who's an NPC, you won't have to come through the front door and, break the immersion or whatever if there's a back door. All of that, again, will be covered by the tour the first night on Friday. Are all the encounters versus cultists, or are there other types of monsters? There are a lot of monsters. There are about half cultists, but essentially almost every quest line that there is will have some definitive monster engagements. Now, granted, they will still be relatively simple in terms of what type of monsters they are. For instance, if there's like a command demon or something like that, maybe they are immune to command, or maybe they're immune to some other schools of magic. Maybe they have a unique outfit that has been made for them, which definitely the case. Spoiler alert, you may or may not be fighting a phoenix, and I got a sweet outfit for that. Granted, it's going to be a young phoenix that can't fly, because, finding a flying human or making a flying machine for this would be a pain in the butt. But anyways, so yes, there will be other monsters besides just cultist, and there will be a lot of variation within the cultists themselves, not just always the same cultist. Maybe this cultist gets an ice ball or something like that because they are oddly related to other more prominent cultist characters. So yeah, let me take a quick look through here. Oh yeah, so just two other roles that I'll cover. I didn't cover them because these are going to be the roles that I am portraying during this entire endeavor. So there is a chauffeur that shuttles people, literally in a shuttle, back and forth between the parking lot and the castle. I'll be handling that all night just because I'm the one renting the U-Haul shuttle. So I will be the one driving it, and that's the coolest way of handling getting people from the parking lot that's away from everything, so we don't see cars as soon as we walk out of the castle. Keep that immersion level high. I'll be doing that. And then throughout the rest of the event, I will be portraying the Marshal. Think like a champion, it's just I'm not the actual kingdom champion. I won't be the kingdom champion. So this is another name for somebody who is just like in charge of running all of the battle games of the day. So I coordinate all of the quests. I am the primary source of knowledge for players, which are derived from completed quests and just the storyline in general. I will constantly be conversing with adventurers simply by fact that they come to me with their questing contracts and they ask, like, hey, do we get any additional help or anything like that before I give them a guide to go on, whatever. So I'm going to be standing there in armor inside all day, nailing these things to the quest boards and putting up other information, etc., facilitating all of this kind of stuff. Let me take one more quick look through this. Otherwise, I think that is all of the roles. Okay. Go back through my little list of stuff. Nice. Ooh, this is 37 minutes this time. Getting slightly longer, but this one had probably the absolute most information, and it is definitely the longest one. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions from anybody? Feel free to hit up the chat. I'll close this out in another minute or so. Otherwise, feel free to post the questions in the comments of the video after it gets, released, or hit up the event page. Hopefully, if you are interested in being an NPC, this was very informative for you, or will be informative for you if you happen to miss it. And give you a little insight in some of the roles. Same thing as the player one, I will be taking Todd's idea and I'll be publishing this in written format, like a document or something like that players can reference just perpetually, so they don't have to come out and watch the 38 minute video. But otherwise, hopefully that was good. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Zoop.